Welcome back to Field Notes, where we dig into the stories, strategies, and people shaping the future of broadband. I'm your host, Abby Crawford, and today I am joined by someone who's seen broadband policy from both sides of the table. First, as a longtime legislator, and now as the executive director of the Oklahoma Broadband Office. Please welcome Director Mike Sanders. Director Sanders brings a unique perspective on what it takes to move the needle from navigating permitting challenges to blending federal and state funding streams, and then everything in between. We'll talk about his journey into public service, the shift he made from policymaking to implementation, and what success looks like for Oklahoma in the years ahead. Let's get into it. Welcome, Director Sanders.
Well, thank you, Abby. I'm honored to be here, and I look forward to our conversation today.
We are so excited to have you. Before we dive into the complexities of broadband deployment, I want to take a step back and just talk about the path that brought you to this work. Your career in public service spans more than a decade, and it's clear that your commitment to connectivity didn't start overnight. Being an Oklahoma native, you have some love for Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Director Sanders, what first got you interested in public service, and how did broadband become a part of your focus?
Oh, gosh. I don't know if we have enough time for this podcast to tell you the whole story, but I'm going to do my best. Public service has always been in my DNA. It's always been in my blood, even at a young age. I can remember my first taste of politics was in 1984. Tells you how old I am. But I was 9 years old, and I saw this guy on television talk about America, talk about that shiny city on a hill, and it just so happened to be Ronald Reagan. And I didn't know what a Democrat was. I didn't know what a Republican was, but it didn't matter because I listened to him. And that started my journey into public service. And so what I did, I just started to pay attention a little bit more in school. I started to read my little Junior Scholastic, magazine, a current event magazine that was popular back in the day. Now they do tablets. We actually had paper. But just started to really dive into policy, really dive into what works, what won't work. Started at the local level in my town that I live in today, small town in western Oklahoma.
So cool.
Just started to help with state rep races, state senate races, and as you get more experience in that, then gubernatorial candidates, congressional candidates, and you just move up the line. And fast forward about 10 years going through college and after college, graduating from Oklahoma Christian in 1997, I had an opportunity about 2 years after that to go down to Austin, Texas, to work for then Governor George W. Bush. We all know the outcome there in 2000, where he became president. He asked me to join his White House staff, which I did. I was the director of the White House intern program, which we'll have to have our own podcast on that, Abby, because there's some really good stories there.
I would love to.
Absolutely. And so I did that for the first 4 years. And then my connection with broadband started in my second half of the Bush administration when I became a senior official over at USDA Rural Development, which handles even today the Reconnect broadband funds. So we've been talking about broadband for 20 plus years. And I always knew that I wanted to come back home and serve my family, my friends, and my neighbors. And I had that opportunity after the last term of President Bush to come home in 2008, run for office in western Oklahoma, won, served 12 years. We have term limits in Oklahoma. After my time as a House Majority Leader and state rep for my district, I opened up my own company, had started my own company, consulting company. And then this opportunity about becoming the director of Oklahoma Broadband became a reality, even though I had no interest at first because it wasn't in my wheelhouse. But I saw what it could do. I saw what it could do to rural Oklahoma and how that could change the trajectory of everyday Oklahoman lives. and what it would mean on the healthcare standpoint or education standpoint or economic development standpoint. And since I have a heart for service and always have, I knew that this was where I needed to be. And 2.5 years later, here we are, Abby. We're talking about Oklahoma Broadband and us guiding and driving this ship.
Wow. Wow. So as you reflect on that early motivation, it's clear that your passion was the driving force to step into this leadership role. Um, and now that you've taken on this new role, you're not just influencing policy, you're executing it,
Yeah,
right? What
absolutely.
made you decide to take on this role? What was like your deciding factor that you knew this was the next step, or was this a surprise even to you? Was this something you ever planned on?
Well, to answer that question, no, I never planned to be the executive director of the Oklahoma Broadband Office, but I always knew that living in rural Western Oklahoma, living still today,
Mhm.
the connectivity issue that still exists.
Yeah.
And so that really started me thinking, okay, if we can connect 80% of the folks in Oklahoma,
Hmm.
we would be much better than where we were. But then I thought, you know what? Let's shoot higher than that. Let's go for 100%. And our state legislature, with the great vision that they had, they wanted 95% connectivity through our programs
Wow.
with ARPA, our state and local fiscal recovery fund, as well as our capital projects fund,
Hmm.
which I am happy to announce that once both of these programs through ARPA are built and operational, we will have achieved 95%. But Abby, I'm greedy. I want
Amazing.
north of that.
I
That's where
love
BEAD
that.
comes in. That's where BEAD comes in. And again, I know what it means when you have that opportunity to change your trajectory for maybe a better job or better health
Mhm.
outcomes or to improve your educational status, whatever the case might be. Broadband used to be what I would call a luxury. It's no longer a
Yeah.
luxury. It is an
Yeah.
absolute way of life. If COVID taught us anything, although it didn't create the digital divide, it absolutely, uh, a light was shown on it because of the in connectivity that we have. And I just realized, you know what? There's no reason that we should not be connected. If we can send people to the moon and outer space and build
Absolutely.
all sorts of great gadgets and gadgets that can change people's lives. Why can't we have high-speed internet to every home and every business and every farm and ranch in Oklahoma? That motivated me. And I knew that by taking this job, I knew that I would have my hand on history and I knew that we had to do this.
That's awesome. Yeah, that had to be a major shift in perspective for you from legislating to leading, but because there's passion there, that it sounds like it was an easier shift than
Yeah.
for others. And it brings a whole new appreciation for the complexity of broadband, right? I mean, it's a
Yeah.
totally different role. And I want to dig into what that looks like in practice for you. So since stepping into this role, as you just mentioned, there's things that you're really proud of, like reaching 95%, which is amazing. But with any progress comes obstacles. I want to hear what were some of those obstacles and hurdles that you've had throughout making this progress.
Well, Abby, what I'm about to tell you, there's really only two ways to react.
Okay.
Either one, your jaw will drop, or you will laugh. All right.
Okay.
So let me tell you, my first obstacle, and we can talk about the administrations and the guidelines and this and that, but my really first obstacle, my first day at the Oklahoma Broadband Office, the office that was asked to deploy $1.3 billion in federal funds, our office did not have high-speed internet. See, you laugh. You've passed the test.
Wow.
There's I knew at that point, wow, what did I just step into? Um, I literally was just perplexed, and my chief of staff and I were discussing on here's what we needed to do and this and that and that, and I'm like, whoa, 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 we need to get internet first before we
Hmm.
do anything. But I say that to say that since then, from a staff of 3, I inherited 3 employees to a staff of 21. That's what we have now. Is we've put in people, we've put in policy, and we put in procedure because there was no foundation. There was absolutely no vision. There wasn't anything to say, okay, here's a playbook, go do broadband. It was just like, okay, here's hot glue and toothpicks, go build broadband in Oklahoma. Wow. So that was my first challenging, issue. Number one, challenging moment. I think the second was finding the right people. This is such a technically advanced mission that you really have to find those nugget type people.
Yeah.
And on top of that, our office goes away in 5 years. So me going out and hiring someone, knowing, okay, you're going to be here for 5 years, but your job goes away. Right. That was another challenging moment because most people want to have security and they want to work longer in a position than 5 years or whatever the case might be. So, but working through all of that, working through the foundation, building our office, then I had to deal with our federal partners. And the moving of the goalposts or non-moving, I guess you could probably say. I mean, nothing was ever put in writing. There was guidance. Yeah. Sometimes it was a little gray at best. And so it was really like, we're just going to dive in, hope to gosh that we're doing it right. And if we do it wrong, we'll get our hands slapped. Luckily, we've never had that issue. I've got a great team. All great leaders say this, but I believe it. I live it. You've got to hire smarter people than you. I believe I've done that. And knowing that this job goes away in 5 years. So navigating through policy changes and policy shifts from Washington to dealing with personnel here in Oklahoma, finding the right people, there were a lot of balls and a lot of moving parts all going at the same time. Oh, and by the way, all of these programs are on a deadline. Right. You still have to go build broadband.
Yeah.
But other than that, all is well.
Yeah.
So those were my challenges then. I look back now and I smile because, I mean, if I can handle all that in like 2 months, I can pretty much handle anything, including our newest guidelines that were released about 2 weeks ago. So you just got to keep your head on a swivel and be optimistic. I'm a glass half full guy, and you have to create positivity. We're here to make sure that underserved and unserved Oklahomans have the ability to have high-speed internet. And my mission hasn't changed. My eye on the ball hasn't changed. That is still our goal.
That is so clear. Just the way that you speak about it is so encouraging, and it reminds I know, not just me, but everyone listening in why this is so important. You mentioned a few times deadlines, and that brings me to my next question is, how do you balance the pressure to move fast, but also to do it right?
Well, you pray a bunch. So, again, you have faith in people and you bring the best and the brightest. There's a lot of sacrifice in public service. And you have to find people who believe in your mission, believe in the culture that you're creating. And I believe we've set that right here in the Oklahoma Broadband Office. So that's the first thing. The second is meeting those goals, which I'm proud to say Oklahoma has always met every deadline, every reporting period. And, it's not if, it's when we get audited, and I welcome audits. We're very transparent here at the Oklahoma Broadband Office. We've done everything that we believe to be right. I guess we'll find out if we're not. But again, remember this, Abby, no one has ever done this. No one has ever built nationwide, coast to coast broadband. I mean, this goes back to what I said, about the 1930s and the Electrification Act and the 1950s with the interstate build-out system, then this is our moment. This infrastructure build-out, although different, is honestly the same, because the information age is changing. AI is here and has been. The data centers, we need that. We need the energy. We need all of these. None of this is slowing down. And so all this sounds great, but if you're not connected, you don't have it. So a lot of pressure to make sure that, one, it's done on time.
Yeah.
You have good people, smart people to make sure that's on time, and make sure it's done right, because it's always cheaper to do it right the first time up front as it is on the back end. So no one is ever perfect. I don't expect to be perfect, but we aim and shoot for the best. And I'm very fortunate to be blessed to be leading this Oklahoma office.
That's so wonderful. The tension that the time and quality plays together, it really shows your leadership and how much you care, because it is a lot of pressure. And of course, one of the
I still have my hair, so which is good.
Yeah, it looks good. Yep, you're good there.
Thank you.
One of the biggest levers that you have to work with, like you were just talking about, is funding. And I know you mentioned other funding as well earlier, but especially right now with BEAD in play. I just want to hear your opinion. Do you think that BEAD is doing enough to support truly unserved and underserved communities, or do you think there still is and will be a gap?
You know, again, I'm an optimist.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
I love it. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Through our BEAD program, Oklahoma was awarded $797.4 billion.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot of money. Our
That's
overall portfolio is about 1.5 billion. One, if you do it right, we're going to get close to 100% connectivity. But here in Oklahoma, but the relationships that we have with USDA and with the FCC and with NTIA, we've got to be able to, all these federal agencies, these other agencies that are working in the broadband space, it's like a puzzle. We all have to work together, because on our own, Oklahoma, even though that is a lot of money, it's going to be tight to get to 100% connectivity without their help, without those other federal partners. So we have collaborated with those agencies and offices. We have a great relationship. Oh, by the way, also with our tribal nations. We have 39 here in Oklahoma.
So cool.
And we've got a great relationship with all of them. We've met with all of them, with the exception of one. And they're partners in this as well, because they too see the benefits of connecting those tribal members and non-tribal members, because this is an economic tool. This is an opportunity for them to do the same as everybody else, but it levels the playing field. It levels the playing field. You don't have to live in Oklahoma City or Tulsa. I can live in Hobart, or I can live in Guyman, or I can live in Miami, or I can live in Idabel, and everything in between. But none of this matters. None of this matters if we're not connected. So it's a partnership. It's a collaboration effort with these other agencies. And obviously, when you look at our website, which is broadband.ok.gov, you can see where we have all these other federal programs on a map. And it's really a neat tool, because you see where their programs are, you see where ours are, and it absolutely just fits in like a puzzle. So it's really, really a neat tool to have.
That is really cool. That kind of brings me into a question that I had later on, but I want to ask now is, so you've had some experience with using these other strategies and other for funding with other organizations. How are you using those same strategies or the experiences that you had with other funding with BEAD? Is that helping you at all kind of implement BEAD?
Yes, yes and no. It's going to help us if we can get all these maps a little bit more accurate and timely.
Sure.
Because what that's going to do is, once we see where their footprints are, then that means, okay, then these serviceable locations, BSLs, are going to be able then to allow us to play in that field.
Yeah.
So accurate mapping, that's always going to be the case. That allows us to spread our dollars further. Plus, we also here at the Oklahoma Broadband Office have a matching component. We've had it with all three other programs that we've ran with our ARPA plus our middle mile. We'll do the same with BEAD, but we got to have some skin in the game from these internet service providers, and they've been wonderful to work with here in Oklahoma. But the more money they put in, the more money we can spread to cover those unserved and underserved Oklahoma. So it's twofold. We're going to use the accuracy of the maps, and I say that tongue in cheek sometimes, but we have to rely on those to make sure that our dollars stretch further than not having that tool at our hands. So, and it helps them too, because they're not allowed to overbuild. We are not allowed to overbuild. But again, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that every Oklahoman has every bit of an opportunity to get high-speed internet as those people who live in downtown Edmond or downtown Tulsa. It is that important.
That's so awesome. I love to hear that. Yeah. So, I mean, the promise of BEAD and funding is huge. But then the real test is how it shapes the landscape over time. And that's something that I've been really thinking about. I wrote an article yesterday on LinkedIn about that. Just, yes, right now there's a lot of attention on BEAD. What are we doing? How are we implementing it? But then also long term, how does BEAD and all of this other funding, how does this impact Oklahoma 5 years down the road? And what would success look like to you?
Great question. Well, success to me would be exceeding our goal. Exceeding our goal. Every serviceable location in the state has access to high-speed internet. Number one. Number two, every anchor institution has high-speed internet. And then lastly, which is more of the human interest story, you know, that grandmother that lives out of town 5, 6, 7 miles can have face-to-face conversations or, FaceTime with, their grandkids, and she can watch them grow up. Seeing her face, seeing their face, you can't measure that. You can't put a dollar amount on that, or that veteran who may be having a health episode and maybe 2 hours away from a specialist in Tulsa, having that ability to get the services online quickly, or I'm starting my own business and but I can't get my goods to market. I can sit at my kitchen table and start a $1 billion company. But every one of these goes back to connectivity. We've got to be able to do that efficiently, effectively, and quite honestly, Abby, the right way. There's all sorts of technology, and I have been an above technology approach guy from the get-go. Oklahoma still has its preference, of course, but we got to use it all. We can't it's not a one-size-fits-all, because some parts of Oklahoma are more costly, some are less. Fixed wireless works great in some areas as opposed to a fiber, just from a cost aspect, or there's a really high cost threshold, cost too much for fixed wireless or fiber, then satellite may be the right fix. So again, those are things that I look at, but I want ultimately 4.4 million Oklahomans in 5 years to be able to get on the internet and to be able to connect to whomever they want in this world, because we have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
We just got to finish it and do it right.
For sure. It's so cool to hear you speak about Oklahoma like this. And it's for any of our viewers listening, I'm sure that they have had very similar conversations or heard very similar conversations in other states across the country. The sad thing is it's not just Oklahoma that has so many Americans disconnected. And it pulls at my heart when you're talking about the grandmother that gets to FaceTime her kids and watch them grow up, because that's how my grandmother had watched me grow up. And it's so important. So to hear you talk about all that's in motion. It's super exciting. And I want to ask you, in the next year, if I could ask you, if I check back with you in a year from now,
Okay.
what do you hope to be able to tell me that you have accomplished 1 year from now?
1 year from now.
Mm-hmm.
All okay. Well, first I want loaded question, but I'll
I'm full
I'll
of
say
those.
this. I'll say this. Um, every serviceable location served with all four of our programs that we are administering through our two ARPA programs, our middle mile program, and our BEAD. Shovels in the ground, and we are within weeks, months of getting connected, something that we have tried for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And within a short amount of time, we're going to be able to do that last connection switch on or flip on, whatever, and we're going to connect and turn all of those red lights to green lights. That is what I hope you and I can talk about a year from now.
I hope so too. It's so inspiring to hear you talk about the future with it's so clear and you have so much purpose. And it's clear that you have so much passion and your team is very passionate. Props to them as well. I know you talked about the struggle of finding a team that was willing to jump on to such a task with not a ton of long-term security.
Correct.
So to all of you for just caring so much and laying the groundwork for a long-term impact is huge. So just awesome job to all of you. Like it seriously is awesome and it's so inspiring. And I hope that anybody listening to this can just even have a little bit of the fire that you have after watching this, because I know I do. Um, and so that brings us to the end of the episode. Is there anything, Director Sanders, that you want to add or say to our viewers before we close it out?
Well, one, I just appreciate you having the opportunity to visit with me and to my 49 other colleagues across the country and my territories. So there's 56 of us. There's only 56 of us, so we're all doing this together. I wish them well. We're all in the same boat. We're better as a team, and again, as long as we all keep our eyes on the ball, that gold ball at the end of the tunnel, we're going to achieve something that has never ever been done, and everyone's going to have their hand on it, and you're going to see the trajectory of our country just absolutely do leaps and bounds of what we thought we could even remotely do. That's what I would leave with, and we've got a great opportunity in front of us. I'm excited, look forward to the challenge, and really appreciate the opportunity to visit with you, Abby.
I have too. Thank you so much, Director Sanders. A big thank you to you and your team. Thank you for taking time to share your insights with us today. We really all appreciate it. I'm speaking on behalf of everybody, all of our viewers. So from legislative wins to realities of rolling out broadband on the ground, it is clear that Oklahoma is in very capable hands, and the road ahead is complex, but it is full of opportunity and passion. If you enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with your network. We'll be back soon with more stories from the front lines of broadband. Until then, that's it from the field. Stay grounded.